Welcome back to my channel, Simplified English 101. If you are new to this channel, please remember, like this video, leave a comment. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when a new video is posted. This is part 2 of our narrative writing video. This particular video will explain to you how to use the information discussed in part 1 of the video to write your short story. It will also have a sample story at the end. Let us begin. One of the first things that you need to consider when you are planning to write your short story is how is it that you're going to organize or structure the events of your story. There are 4 methods that you can use, or techniques if you rather. 1, the chronological order. Now, this means that you tell the story in time according to the events that happened one after the other. You are expecting to see the story transpire firstly, secondly, thirdly. This is what happened next, followed by this to the very end. Another way is to look at the flashback or flash forward method. In this particular structure, the events are interpreted or written by memory of something that happened in the past, which we call a flashback, or by events that will happen in the future, which we call a flash forward. There are some times when you are going to be using the flashback and or flash forward method, it is best that you think about using foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is giving an indication of something that will happen in the future. So once you decide to use a flashback and or flash forward method, it is always good that you think about using some sort of foreshadowing, something that is symbolic that will foreshadow something that will happen by the end of the story. A third way is examining different points of view. Your story is therefore constructed by looking at a series of events or major events in the story from several points of view. One would think about using the third person omniscient point of view, where you get to explore basically the voices of all the characters within your story. A fourth way is thinking of using a twist, a surprising ending, or the domino effect. A plot twist is an unexpected occurrence or a turn of events in the story, and this will completely change the outcome from how it started to, of course, how it ended. A plot twist is best used when we're using a flashback or flash forward method, and this is because it helps us to, reveal the character traits and personality over time, and of course to change the character's fortune. A plot twist and a surprise ending have similar features. The domino effect, on the other hand, follows a cause and effect pattern. It examines all the actions performed and the repercussions for these actions. Once you have figured out how you want to organize your story, what you want your story to basically look like, and the twists and turns that you want in your story, it is now time for you to look at some techniques that can be used. Of course, you are encouraged to use strong adjectives and adverbs, strong verbs. Use your literary and figurative devices. Use your similes and metaphors and puns and personification, and the list goes on. You are also encouraged to use short sentences. You know the function of short sentences, use them. The question now is, how do you start your story? The images there should give you a clue. Our story can begin by using our setting, our action, and our dialogue. The beginning of our story is called our exposition. What are the things that are included in the exposition? First of all, the exposition tells or introduces us, the reader, to your story. It does so by presenting background information of the plot, the characters. It will explain details about the setting, or rather, give us information about the setting. It will introduce us to the plot or the problem within the story, the major plot or problem in the story. It will give us some sense of probably historical events, again, background information, and the list goes on. There are 3 things I want you to think about when you are starting your story. Again, think about using the setting. Think about beginning your story by using action. Jump right into the action of the story. Or you can think about using dialogue. There are writers who have used characters or characterization to begin their story, but this video will not be about that. Let us move on into 3 ways that we can actually begin our story. The setting. When we think about the setting, most times we think about just the physical aspect, but that is not the case. The setting of the story does not only introduce us to the physical aspect or the time, it will help to set the mood, it will help to influence the way the characters behave, it will help to affect the dialogue, foreshadowing events, and even give personal responses from our character. When we think about using setting in our story, think about using different aspects. For example, mention the climate, the weather. We can talk about the religious aspects, the political environment, social and or cultural environment. Of course, we are going to talk about the physical setting. We can talk about the scenery and the customs and the transportation, the clothing, the dialect, the time of day, and the time of year. All of these and more make up the setting. We can also use the action. The action in the exposition, it tells us what the major characters were doing in that particular setting that you would create. When using the action, remember one, action does not always mean big explosion like we see in a movie. The action can begin anywhere in the story. Your action can be something shocking. It can be something unclear that of course we will see clearly as the story goes on. We can also decide to use a dialogue. Your dialogue, it must be in the conflict. 2, your dialogue must have a purpose. When we think about that, we want to think about 1. It should drive the story forward or advance the plot. In doing so, it will increase suspense. It will change the character situation. It will shed light on what the characters want or don't want. It should strengthen or weaken the character's result. Your dialogue should also provide more information about the character/characterization. In doing so, think about the background or the future information that we want to give. Think about the values you want your characters to have. What sort of person you want them to be. Remember, your characters should be real life or true to life persons. Your characters should also have relationships with other characters. We want to see how they interact with people, just like how we would interact with others in our real life. Your dialogue should flow, meaning you should watch how you use your dialogue tags, and you need to do some research on this to know what it is. You need to vary the length of your dialogue. Think about the way you would converse in real life, and this is how you write your dialogue. Make it concise. Prevent your characters from sounding the same. So don't have all your characters being angry or sad or miserable or a squeaky voice. Give your characters different personality traits. Give your characters an agenda with their voice. When they speak, ensure that there is a purpose. Use the appropriate punctuation marks to punctuate your dialogue. Now that you understand how we're going to start our story, let us look at some samples or examples of how we have used both the setting, action, and dialogue to begin a story. Now, if you look at these particular examples, we see that all of them actually has started by using one of the starters for the exposition. Let me give you some minutes to read over this. Let us move on. We have explored the different ways that we can begin our story. You've seen 3 examples, one of the setting, one of the action, and one of the dialogue. You were given some time to read over, and now that you've read, it should be clear which of the story starter we have selected. We're going to start our story by looking at the action. I'm going to be pointing out or explaining a few things to you as we go along. The exposition reads, I looked around and there it was. Waves coiling, unfolding, and crushing as it rushed towards us. The midday sun that once pelted my caramel skin reminded me of my days spent in Tanzania. It seemed hotter and more intense. The slight vibration I felt in the center of my back was now replaced by hard jerking and trembling under my feet. I pressed my bony fingers on the warm silver sand and glanced over at my mother, who still laid unaware on her skinny girl towel she bought on her last trip to Mexico. I was now standing beside my mom, who was alerted by the screams she heard under her limited edition Beats phone. If one could read the pages of this unfolding sea, it would read run. As I did, I looked behind and saw my mom. Instead of running, she was grabbing her Chanel clutch purse filled with her diamond earrings. Run! Mom! Run! I bellowed as tears ran down my once-filled face. It was too late. Too late. I feared for her. Remember that the exposition of your story should introduce you to the setting, the major character, and of course the major problem, or a problem that the character will face within the story. It is clear from the exposition that the character, the main character revealed, is a woman. She appears to be younger. She is of African descent based on her caramel skin. She appears to be affluent, or her mother appears to be affluent or rich, in the sense that she has visited Tanzania, in the sense that her mother went on a trip to Mexico. We see that they clearly are on vacation. Her mother has her limited edition Beats headphone. We also see that her mother has a clutch purse and she actually turned back to get her diamond earrings. So all of these things lets us know a little bit more about the character. From the exposition, we also know that she clearly was a little bit fatter than she is now because of her filled face, but now she appears to be slimmer because of her bony fingers. We can also tell that she is observant in the sense that she felt before her mother and probably many others that there was something happening in nature. She felt that jerking and the trembling. From the exposition also, we know more information about the setting of this particular story. What are some of the things that we know? One, they clearly are on a beach. We see the waves uncoiling and crashing against the sand. We also see that it is, of course, midday. The midday sun is out. We know that the time is extremely hot and it is hotter than it was even in Tanzania. We know that there is some sort of natural disaster taking place through the vibration that she felt. We also know from the exposition that a conflict that she is currently facing is that natural disaster. And from that, we can also tell that one of the inciting incidents in this particular story is that this natural disaster, or the fear that she felt, or the fact that she is quite alert, she was able to get up and start running immediately. And in running, we realize that her mother is behind. We can also tell from this that her mother appears to be a materialistic person. Now that we have written our exposition, let us move on. Your rising action of the story, it must include the struggles that your character faces. It is going to add to the complication of the problem. There should be tension. We should see the character going through a tense moment, whether it be emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, whatever it might be. We should see some sort of interaction with her and the problem that she is facing. Now, if you look over on the side where you see that little man trying to climb the mountain, you would know that in your rising action, it is not expected to be a smooth sailing event. So we are expected to see the conflict that the character face should grow. Before you are able to fully develop your conflict, you must understand the different types of conflict that exist. One, there is character versus self, in the sense that the character has a problem with herself. It could be her body weight, it could be that it's a mental issue, it could be an emotional issue, whatever it is. The character has a problem with another character. Or you can choose to write your story based on the character versus nature, in the sense that your character has a problem with nature. Or finally, character versus society. The character has a problem with members of society. It could be members in a church, or a member in a church, a school, a community, whatever it is, societal issues. It is clear from our exposition that our major character, the first conflict we see, is the problem that she has with nature. What we do not know is if this problem that she has will transpire into other problems, if there will be other conflicts that will develop from this, or it will be one that we will take through the end of the story. Now that we know what we expect to see in the rising action of our story, let us now move on into looking at how the rising action should actually look or can be developed. The rising action reads, the waves had taken over the land by now. The palm tree, the baby ones had disappeared, and the more mature ones were halfway gone. I had already made my way to the hotel lobby, where a panic rushed through the crowd and fear lingered in all of us. I pushed past the crowd and continued to make my way up the stairs while others tried to cram their way in the already full elevators. I was now soaked in my own sweat, and tears continued to flood my face. From the 12th floor, I could hear the screams from all around. The grown women who giggled like lovesick teenagers, and the children who had mimicked their parents could be seen from afar being tossed and dashed against the beach chairs and other weapons in the tempestuous sea. What do we know from the rising action? Please remember, your story is a process. Not because you are expected to use all the elements in your story means that from the exposition, we're going to get all the details. You're going to walk your readers step by step through your story. And in doing so, you have to understand what each element requires. From the rising action, we are expecting to see the problem grow. We are expecting to see interaction with this character, with probably other characters. We are expecting to see the conflict that was introduced to us in the exposition. How is it that this is impacting her and our others involved? From the rising action, we can see one, conflict with nature. The waves have taken over the land. This natural disaster, possibly an earthquake, has now triggered a tsunami. We can also see that the setting appears to be some sort of Caribbean setting, or something that mimics a Caribbean or the Caribbean based on the palm trees. We can also tell that she is at a resort. She's in the hotel lobby and she is smart. She has left her mother clearly. She's push past the crowd and she's trying to make her way up the stairs. Also, the setting has changed. We know now that she's no longer on the beach. She is clearly in the hotel. She is on the 12th floor and she is obviously looking over. From here, we can possibly tell that not just the setting, but also her personality has changed. When we met her, she appeared to be strong and brave and obviously courageous. But now we sense her fear. We sense that she is very afraid of what is to come by this tsunami. We don't know where her mother is, and so we are now left to wonder, what are the things that will really happen? This will now take us into our climax. The climax of our story is the central part of the conflict. This is where your protagonist will be confronted by the problem becoming bigger than it is, or is supposed to be, or what he or she expects the problem to be. This is also where the problem appears to be too difficult for them to manage. And it is in this point that you want to give your character a little flaw. You want to make sure that your character was always brave and strong, that she might do something unexpected, which is to cry. She never cries, but she cries in this moment. In your climax, you want to think about making it interesting, making it suspenseful, ensuring that you create the greatest emotional response for your characters and your readers. You can also think about, again, including some sort of unexpected behavior or quality from your character. Finally, make sure that your climax make your reader want to read more. Let us look at how we can develop a climax for this particular story. The climax reads, "Help! Help!" came a scream from what used to be a parking lot. We all turned in unison, but the screams faded as quickly as they were heard. I peered over the balcony and saw Mom's skinny girl towel wrapped around a palm tree, and I covered my mouth to stop the screams from bursting from my throat. I fell to my knees, and it was then, at that moment, that I felt a hand grip my shoulder. Now, this, of course, is a part of our climax, but our climax is going to have a twist. One, notice that there is a hand grip in her shoulder. We don't know if it is her mom, if her mom has been saved, but then through the use of dialogue, we see that this is not the case. "Hold her down! Come on, move faster!" the voice bellowed from above me. "Move it, Nurse Duncan. I thought I told you to watch her, didn't I?" From the climax, we can see that we have decided to employ a little twist in the story. It is now clear that she is not on the beach, where we thought she was in the beginning. She is obviously in some sort of hospital, possibly a mental institute. Remember, your climax is supposed to bring forth some sort of suspense. It is supposed to bring forth some sort of unexpected changes and reaction in the character. From the climax, we are supposed to be intrigued about what will happen next. So let's quickly run through the climax. We see that we are introduced to the climax through the use of the dialogue. We see that obviously gives us more aspect into the setting. They are obviously, again, at a hotel. From where she is, she can look into the parking lot. So we get to see kind of a position of where she is in that particular hotel. We get to see that she's no longer there by herself because of the use of the pronoun we, shows that other persons are there with her. We see that she sees her mom's towel from where she stands, and obviously this drives fear into her. The twist is introduced by the hand grab, the narrative, and also the means of the dialogue that we see at the bottom. Let us now move on into the falling action. Interesting. Your falling action is important within your story because unlike the rising action that builds tension throughout, the falling action decreases that tension. So the suspense that we felt earlier, we are now going to be taking it down a notch. We are going to be trying to solve the narrator's problem, the protagonist's problem. We're going to try to give her some ease, some satisfaction, some relief. Now notice I did not say that we are going to solve the problem. We are going to try and solve the problem or problems that she faces. In your falling action, it should help to move the story's event towards a resolution. It should de-escalate the tension that we met in the climax, and it should help the characters learn more about themselves and how they have changed. So these are some of the things that you are going to be looking out for in the sample falling action. Let us look at that. The falling action reads, "By then, my eyes were half open and the white uniforms dazzled my eyes. I tilted my head to the right and then to the left, and the bars on the window reminded me of where I was and what I had become. I kicked my leg as hard as I could, but they were stuck. Tied down, it seemed. The warm liquid had already made its way from my left arm and taken hold of my entire body as my eyes began to close once again. My lips felt heavier than they did before, and the words struggled to come forth. The warm tears I woke with were still there and ran down the cold plastic bed. What do we know from the fall in action? 1. We know that she clearly is in a hospital. She's been attended by nurses. They're wearing their white uniform. We know that there are bars on the window, so clearly it is no longer a hospital. It is a mental institute or institution. We know that she is off arm to herself. She has been restrained, which means that she possibly has tried to hurt herself in the past. They don't want it to happen now. We also know whatever dreams she actually was having about the events in the past, it has now caused her to get into a tantrum. We also know this liquid, the injection or medication that she has been given, it has made her drowsy or sleepy, and she is actually falling asleep. It says that she, the character, the main character, should learn more things about herself. Through the fall in action, we can see that she comes to terms with where she is, that she is mentally affected by the events in the past. Clearly, it shows that there is some sort of flashback taking place. And of course, we did see some sort of foreshadowing that we would have seen in the exposition of the piece and the rise in action. Let us now move on into the resolution. Your resolution in your story must tie off all the loose ends. Whatever problems your major character faced, we should now try to solve them. We're fixing them. We're making sure that she is going through none of these phases anymore and she's good. And this is what we call the resolution. When we ensure that our major character is no longer affected by these events. Another way to end your story is through using a cliffhanger. On some occasions, a story has no solutions. It doesn't end the way we want it to, and it leaves us in more suspense than even before. And this is called a cliffhanger. Now, these are devices that adds suspense and more anticipation to the plot. It leaves us wondering what is going to happen now. Where is she? Did they find her mother? Is her mother really dead? Did it affect her mother as well? Or what? We don't know any of these things. And so we have so many unanswered questions. I want you to note that a cliffhanger is many times used in a series show where the movie ends abruptly and our curiosity grows and all we want to see is the next part of that show. Let us see which way we will actually select. Run, Mom, I muttered before once again feeling nothing but warm sun on my caramel skin. There's no rule or nothing that dictates how many words or sentences we need to have in different parts of our story. It depends on you, the writer. Your resolution could be 5 words, 5 sentences, an entire paragraph. Who knows? What you need to know is that whatever effect you wanted to create is created. In this particular resolution, which is clearly a cliffhanger, we are left wondering, did her mother die? Or is it that she is just affected by the events that she saw? We have so many more unanswered questions, and this should create some sort of curiosity. In this particular example, the resolution is just 1 sentence. And from this 1 sentence, again, it leads into more suspense. This is what your sample story should look like. Please note that you are writing in 400 to 450 words. This is 475 words in total. I hope that you learned something from this video. This has brought us to the end of today's lesson. Please remember to like this video, leave your comments. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I can see you watching but not subscribing. And finally, ring that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when a new video is posted like this. Until then, bye.